My husband's cousin and I were both tied up at the edge of a cliff. The bandit said only one of us could live. My husband's eyes were bloodshot as he strode toward me. Man, jump, it won't hurt, I promise. You've practiced martial arts since childhood, grown up running wild in the mountains, you might just survive. Tears streaming down my face, I shoved him off the cliff. If it doesn't hurt, then you jump first, husband. The wind at the cliff's edge was fierce, stinging my cheeks like 1,000 tiny knives. I stared blankly at Xinjingyan before me. His features were even blurred by the wind, yet every word he'd spoken rang out crystal clear, piercing my bones with a cold that seeped into my very marrow. 3 years ago, something eerily similar had happened. Xinjingyan was a valiant warrior, his enemies countless. Too cowardly to face him head-on, they resorted to the lowest of tricks. They abducted me and took me to a desolate mountain ridge, forcing him to kneel and kowtow, trampling every last bit of his pride into the dirt. That unyielding, iron-blooded man had dropped to his knees in the mud without a moment's hesitation. His foes cackled cruelly as they drove their blades into his flesh. Once, twice, I lost count of how many times they stabbed him. All I remembered was how the blood that day had almost dyed the entire hillside red, yet he'd only covered my eyes with his hand, bearing the agony in complete silence. Enduring every wound without a single cry of pain, he'd lain in a coma for an entire month. Everyone said he'd never wake up, but against all odds, he'd pulled through. When he finally opened his eyes, his first instinct was to comfort me. Man, don't be afraid, your life is worth 1,000 times more than mine. I, Xinjingyan, swear to heaven, never again will I let you be in harm's way, not unless I draw my last breath first. That oath still echoed in my ears. But now, this same man, without a moment's hesitation, had chosen to make me jump to save another woman. I said nothing, just stared at him. Xinjingyan took a step closer, reaching out to caress my cheek, his tone soft, as if coaxing a disobedient child. Man, you've always had the kindest heart, you understand, don't you? Xixi has been frail and sickly since she was a child. If she jumps, she'll surely die. Trust me, this is just a stopgap measure. I'll find a way to save you afterward. I swear I won't let you die. I lifted my head, tears clouding my vision. But husband, I'm carrying your child in my womb. 2 lives, gone in an instant. Do you really want me to jump? I'd planned to tell him the happy news at the perfect moment, never dreaming we'd be caught in such a nightmare. A tiny flicker of hope still lingered in my heart. For the baby's sake, would he change his mind? When Xinjingyan heard my words, his eyes darted to my abdomen in disbelief. Emotions churned violently within his gaze. Shock, hesitation, even a hint of struggle. He opened his mouth, as if about to speak. Cousin. Just as he was about to utter a word, Wei Xixi, standing beside us, suddenly spoke up in a timid, trembling voice. But you just had your monthly courses a few days ago. She clapped a hand over her mouth as if she'd said something she shouldn't have, her eyes brimming with tears. She turned to Xinjingyan, her voice choked with sobs. Cousin, don't make things hard for cousin, let me jump instead. After all, I've been an orphan since I was little, all alone in this world. Even if I die, no one will grieve for me. She turned her face slightly away, tears streaming down her cheeks unceasingly. Xixi wishes cousin and cousin a long and happy life together. She paused, her gaze sweeping over my abdomen, and added with a bitter smile, may you have a precious son soon. With that, she closed her eyes, looking as if she was ready to meet her fate without a fight. Let her go, I'll jump. Xinjingyan roared out, his voice filled with urgency. No, Xixi must not jump. He whipped around to glare at me. All trace of hesitation vanished from his eyes, replaced by undisguised disgust. Chu man, he snapped at me sharply. When did you become so selfish and vicious? Willing to lie about being pregnant just to save your own skin? Where has your kindness gone? Did a dog eat it? He took a step closer, towering over me. If you still regard me as your husband, jump off this cliff right now, otherwise. I stared at him steadily, unblinking. Otherwise what? Do you plan to push me off yourself, husband? His eyes flickered, and he averted his gaze, his tone stiff and cold. Don't blame me, man, I have no other choice. Tears streamed silently down my cheeks. dripping into my mouth. They tasted so bitter. The last shred of hope in my heart shattered completely. I nodded slowly, as if all the strength had been drained from my body. Very well. I heard my own voice say, I agree, I'll jump. Shen Jingyan let out a huge sigh of relief. There's my good girl, man. I spoke softly, my tone laced with a final plea. Husband, I have just one request. Can you hold me one last time? A flicker of impatience crossed his face. But perhaps as a reward for my obedience, or perhaps to get this over with quickly, he finally reached out and pulled me into his arms. Man, don't worry, I won't really let you die. I'll find the best physicians in the land to heal you, I promise. This embrace had once been my entire world, broad, warm, a shelter that shielded me from all the storms of life. Now I realized, without him, the world outside would never rain again. Unbeknownst to him, I'd already quietly loosened my bonds long ago. I'd just been waiting for the perfect moment to save Wei-Jishi, but now, it seemed that was no longer necessary. The bandit, clearly losing his patience, pressed the blade of his knife against Wei-Jishi's throat and cursed loudly. Damn it, quit your sappy melodrama. Are you gonna jump or not? If you don't hurry up, I'll slit this little beauty's throat right now. No, Shen Jingyan panicked, releasing me abruptly. In that split second, I grabbed his wrist and shoved him hard toward the cliff. His pupils dilated violently, his face contorted in terror, but it was already too late for him, watching his figure plummet rapidly downward. I let out a cold laugh. If it doesn't hurt, then you jump first, husband. The cliff was bottomless. Shen Jingyan's blood-curdling scream echoed through the valley for a long time. This sudden turn of events left the other two frozen in place. Wei-Jishi was the first to snap out of her daze. Gone was all trace of her frailty in an instant. She shoved the bandit aside with all her strength and screamed as she lunged at me. Chu Man, you vicious woman, how dare you kill cousin? I'll make you pay with your life. I'd been expecting this. I dodged her attack nimbly, stepping to the side. My gaze fell on her wrist, bared as she flailed, soft and delicate, her skin smooth and unblemished, not a single mark or scrape to be seen. Unlike mine, raw and bleeding from the ropes that had bound me, the last trace of hesitation in my heart vanished without a trace. If you're so unwilling to part with him, then go join him in the afterlife. I reached out, grabbed a handful of her hair, and dragged her to the edge of the cliff. Ah, she screamed in pain, her eyes blazing with venom now replaced by sheer terror, her hands flailing wildly in the air. Chu Man, let me go. You can't. I curled my lips into a cold smile, cutting off her hysterical shrieks. Down you go. Before she could finish speaking, I pushed her off the cliff with all my strength. Ah, Chu Man, you'll burn in hell. I'll haunt you for eternity even as a ghost. Her screams were even louder than Shen Jingyan's had been, echoing repeatedly through the valley. Lingering long after her figure had vanished from sight, I turned around indifferently. The bandit was trembling like a leaf, his legs already turning to jelly as he tried to bolt. I lashed out with my foot, kicking him hard in the back of his knees. Ah, he howled in agony, collapsing to the ground. Heroine, spare me, spare my life. He didn't even care about the pain now, kowtowing frantically. It wasn't my idea, it was that evil woman who ordered me to do it. Desperate to save his own skin, he spilled everything. She came to me secretly a month ago, gave me 200 taels of silver as a deposit, told me to dress up as a bandit, lie in wait on this remote road leading to Jingyin Temple, said there'd be a huge reward once the job was done. I'm just a hired thug, a nobody who does what is paid to do. Please, heroine, have mercy, spare me like you'd flick a bug off your sleeve. So that was it. A few days earlier, Wei-Jishi had begged me to accompany her to Jingyin Temple to pay homage to her parents. I hadn't thought twice about it. I'd agreed immediately. When our carriage reached a desolate stretch of the road, she'd suddenly tugged at my sleeve shyly, saying she had a terrible stomachache and needed to find a private place to relieve herself. So I'd told our entourage to wait where they were, taking only my maid Inlian with me as I followed her into the dense woods. A short while later, she'd let out a shrill scream. I'd hurried over to check on her. Just as my attention was fully focused on her, a heavy blow struck the back of my neck, Before I could even see who'd attacked me, my vision went black. And I lost consciousness. When I'd opened my eyes again, I'd found Me.He and myself both tied up at the edge of the cliff, one wrong move away from plummeting into the abyss below. The bandit had claimed he had a blood feud with Shinjingyan. He'd sent Inlian back to deliver a message: Shinjingyan must come alone, or we'd both die. That was how we'd ended up in this impossible choice at the cliff's edge. Ever since I'd married Shinjingyan, I'd pitied Me.He for being orphaned at such a young age, treating her like my own younger sister. I'd taken great care of her every need: food, clothing, shelter, everything, afraid she'd suffer even the slightest discomfort. Lately, I'd even been racking my brain over her marriage prospects, carefully vetting every eligible young man in the capital, hoping to find her a good, kind husband who would cherish her. Who could have imagined that my wholehearted sincerity had only ever been met with her desire to see me dead? Pushing her off that cliff just now had been far too easy on her. The bandit's eyes were now filled with nothing but primal fear. Heroine, my ancestor, I beg you, spare my worthless life. He kowtowed so frantically his forehead was already a bloody mess. I have a 70-year-old mother and a 3-year-old son waiting for me to feed them at home. You've already killed those two. Please don't kill me too. I was about to speak when my ears pricked up slightly. In the distance, the faint sound of horse hooves was rapidly approaching along the mountain path, steady, swift, perfectly synchronized. Someone was coming. Having practiced martial arts since childhood, my senses were far sharper than the average person's. To me right now, that sound of hooves was sweeter than the most melodious music in the world. The time had come. I looked down at the bandit, my eyes cold as ice. I'll spare you. A look of ecstatic relief spread across his face, but my next words left him frozen in shock. Now stand up and strangle me. His eyes widened to the size of saucers, his face a picture of utter disbelief. What? Impatiently, I frowned and punched him square in the face. Ah, he howled in pain, nosebleed gushing out, leaving him even more dumbfounded. I said, strangle my neck. Do you not understand human speech? I glanced in the direction of the approaching hoofbeats, my tone growing even more urgent. Squeeze hard, then shout, you bitch. Go to hell with them. He finally realized this was no joke. It was his only chance to survive. Trembling, he scrambled to his feet, his hands reaching timidly toward my neck. Like this? He asked cowardly, not daring to use any force at all. Did you not eat your fill? I snapped at him in a low, fierce voice. Squeeze harder. If you don't strangle me half to death, I'll send you down to join them right now. A flicker of cruelty flashed in the bandit's eyes. He suddenly tightened his grip, clamping his hands around my throat like iron vices. You bitch, go to hell with the others, he roared, his voice echoing off the cliff walls. A sharp, suffocating pain washed over me instantly. Just as my vision began to darken, whoosh, a sharp arrow sliced through the air, piercing his forehead with deadly precision. The bandit's hands went limp, releasing me. His body crumpled backward to the ground, motionless. I dropped to my knees, coughing violently. My throat burned like fire, making it almost impossible to speak. The purple finger marks around my neck looked grotesque against my pale, snow-white skin. Madam, a panicked cry rang out from nearby. I looked up to see Inlian stumbling toward me. Her skirt hitched up in her hands, her hair was disheveled, her hairpins askew, her face ashen with terror. Behind her followed more than a dozen Imperial guards clad in black armor. Inlian reached out to touch the bruises on my neck gently, tears spilling from her eyes at once. Madam, how are you? Are your wounds serious? When the old madam heard that the general had ridden out of the city alone, she nearly fainted from worry. She ordered me to take the token and summon an elite squad from the Imperial Guards to come to your rescue. She glanced around, noticing that I was alone, and frowned in confusion. Where is the general and Miss Wei? Why aren't they with you? Tears streamed down my face as I spoke, my voice hoarse and broken. Why did you take so long to get here? The bandit pushed my husband and the others off the cliff. I fought with all my strength to stop him, but I could only watch helplessly as they fell. With that, I pushed Inlian away and stumbled toward the cliff edge. As if ready to throw myself down, let me join them. Without my husband, I don't want to live anymore, madam, no. Inlien threw her arms around my waist from behind, holding me tightly. You are the general's life. Now that his fate is unknown, you must not risk your own life. By now, the Imperial Guards had pieced together what had happened. When they heard the devastating news that Shen Jingyan had fallen off the cliff, their faces filled with grief. Chen Feng, the captain of the guards, dropped to his knees, his expression grim with sorrow. It is this subordinate's fault for arriving too late. Please forgive me, madam, but I beg you to take care of your health. I swear to heaven that I will search every inch of the mountain until I find the general, even if it costs me my life. Please take care of yourself. Madam, we swear to find the general, even if it means dying trying. All the guards behind him knelt down in unison. The cliff was bottomless, shrouded in perpetual mist. Everyone knew in their hearts that falling from such a height meant certain death. There would be no body left to bury. You must bring him back. I sobbed uncontrollably, my body racked with tears, until I could barely stand. I leaned heavily against Inlien, my strength completely drained. I need to see him, alive or dead. The last words came out in a whisper, as if I had used up every last bit of my energy. Overwhelmed by grief, my legs gave way, and I fainted. For the next few days, I remained in a semi-conscious state, overcome with sorrow. Finally, on the morning of the 7th day, the time was right. I was ready to wake up. The sound of voices drifted in from outside the courtyard. It was Chen Feng returning. His voice was choked with tears. Old madam, this subordinate deserves to die. My men and I searched the river at the bottom of the cliff day and night for 7 full days. All we found was a mangled leg, torn apart by wild beasts. The cloth on it was the general's. The ground around it was covered in blood. I'm afraid the general is gone. His remains were probably eaten by the mountain beasts. Before he could finish speaking, a deathly silence fell over the courtyard. My mother-in-law let out a heart-wrenching wail. This was followed by the sharp crash of teacups shattering on the ground, and the panicked cries of the servants. Old madam, what's wrong with you? Hold her up quickly, pinch her philtrum, get the doctor. Hurry and get the doctor. Amidst the chaos, I let out a weak cough at just the right moment. Inlien, who had been keeping vigil by my bed, rushed over at once, her voice filled with joyful tears. Madam, you're finally awake. Her exclamation silenced the courtyard for a brief moment. Then came the sound of hurried footsteps approaching. The door creaked open. My mother-in-law stood in the doorway, supported by 2 maids on either side, struggling to stay upright. In just 7 days, she had aged more than 10 years. Her once immaculate silver hair was loose, strands of it sticking messily to her cheeks. Her back, which had always been straight with pride, was now hunched over, her entire weight supported by the maids. Man, you're finally awake. Her voice was broken and hoarse, barely recognizable. I struggled to prop myself up on my elbows, my face filled with urgent hope. Mother-in-law, I thought I heard Captain Chen's voice just now. Did he come back? Did he find my husband? He's okay, isn't he? I reached out and grabbed her sleeve, clinging to her like a drowning person clutching a plank of wood. My mother-in-law squeezed my hand tightly in return, her fingers cold and trembling violently. She looked at me, shaking her head sorrowfully as tears streamed down her face. Yanga, he's never coming back. I stared at her blankly, as if I couldn't understand her words. I blinked slowly, murmuring in a daze. What do you mean he's never coming back, mother-in-law? What are you saying? I don't understand. Then, as if the truth had finally sunk in, I tried to throw off the blankets and climb out of bed, frantic with grief. You're lying. My husband would never leave me. I'm going to find him. No, man, listen to me. My mother-in-law pressed me back against the bed, her voice raw with emotion. I've already lost Yanga. If anything happens to you too, you'll kill me. She held my hand tightly, as if afraid that if she let go, I would disappear forever. Her gaze fell on my stomach. Man, even if you don't care about yourself, you have to think about the child in your womb. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. You're nearly 2 months pregnant. This is the only bloodline Yanga left behind in this world. Man, please listen to me. For this child's sake, you must stay alive. I froze, every muscle in my body going rigid, as if struck by lightning. I looked down at my still flat stomach in disbelief, my eyes empty and dazed. Child, I repeated the word numbly. Yes, it's your child and Yangus. My mother-in-law pulled me into her arms, pleading with me desperately, man, from now on, it will just be the three of us, grandmother, mother, and child. We'll have to depend on each other for the rest of our lives. I lifted my trembling hand, placing it gently on my abdomen. In the next moment, the overwhelming grief I had been holding back finally found an outlet. I burst into loud, heartbroken sobs. As I cried, my eyelashes fluttered, and my body went limp, slumping backward. My mother-in-law's terrified voice rang out, Man, hurry, get the doctor here at once. No one saw the faint, almost imperceptible smile that curved my lips. The Imperial troops sent to search the cliff bottom continued their efforts for more than 10 days. The terrain there was extremely treacherous, steep, jagged cliffs, rushing rapids in the deep gorges below, and frequent sightings of wolf packs. It was a place where few humans dared to tread. There was virtually no chance that Shen Jingyan had survived. Helplessly, the Shen family had no choice but to place the mangled leg they had recovered into a coffin, using it as a symbolic relic for the funeral. The imperial edict conferring posthumous honors arrived at the Marquis's mansion on the afternoon before the official funeral. By then, white mourning banners hung low over the mansion, the atmosphere heavy with sorrow. A palace eunuch strode forward, holding a bright yellow silk scroll in his hands, dressed in full mourning white, my face pale as a ghost. I knelt at the front of the mourning hall, supported by Enlian. The eunuch's high-pitched voice echoed through the hall. First, he eulogized Shen Jingyan's illustrious military achievements, lamenting his tragic death at a young age. He announced that the late general would be posthumously granted the title of Marquis of Zhongyong, with full honors for his burial. Then, his words turned to me, Chusha of the Shen clan, by nature gentle and virtuous, her conduct upright and proper, she showed the deepest devotion to her husband and the utmost filial piety to her mother-in-law. Her virtue and modesty make her a model for all women. Now, having suddenly lost her beloved husband, she is overcome with grief, a sorrow that moves all who hear of it. The emperor, filled with compassion, hereby bestows upon her the title of first-class Lady of Zhenjing, with double the usual stipend, and grants her a phoenix edict and a golden seal, to honor her virtue and comfort her grieving heart. The two characters Zhenjing, chastity and reverence, carried the weight of 1,000 jun. It was the highest honor the imperial court could bestow upon a widowed woman, silencing any possible gossip or criticism about me in the future. The eunuch paused briefly, his gaze falling on my stomach, his tone softening slightly. Furthermore, in recognition of the Marquis of Zhongyong's great service to the state and the pity of his lost bloodline, the emperor grants a special grace. If the child in the lady's womb is a boy, he shall be named the heir to the Marquisate of Zhongyong at birth, to inherit the title upon reaching adulthood. If it is a girl, she shall be granted the title of Princess Yongla, with a fief of 1,000 households, enjoying the same ceremonial privileges as a prince's daughter. May this extend the line of this loyal and righteous man, and comfort the souls of all fallen soldiers. I looked up in shock, my eyes brimming with gratitude, and kowtowed deeply toward the imperial palace. Thank you for your majesty's great kindness. Long live the emperor, long live the emperor, long live the emperor. As I rose to my feet, my legs wobbled, and I nearly collapsed, saved only by Enlian's quick support. Behind me, my mother-in-law was already sobbing uncontrollably. The emperor's kindness is boundless. Man, this is what Yang earned with his life. It is yours by right. Tomorrow Yang will be able to rest in peace with all the honor he deserves. I dug my fingernails into my palm, tears streaming down my face even faster, but my heart was filled with wild, triumphant joy. Shen Jingyan, you died at the perfect time. When you were alive, did I ever enjoy such dignity and honor, promotion, wealth, and the death of one's husband? Every word of this old saying was true. It did not deceive me. On the day of the funeral, carriages lined the road outside the Marquis's mansion as far as the eye could see. Nobles, officials, and generals from the capital all came to pay their respects, clad head to toe in white mourning clothes. my face gaunt and pale. I thanked each guest who came to offer condolences, my voice weak and trembling with every word. I had already soaked a handkerchief in onion juice earlier. Every time I dabbed at the corners of my eyes, fresh tears streamed down my face. Several elderly noble ladies, close friends of the Shen family, watched me with hearts full of sympathy. They came forward to hold my hands, their own eyes welling up with tears before they could even speak. Poor child, you've suffered so much. The Marquis, watching from heaven, would never bear to see you so broken-hearted. I could only shake my head, tears flowing even more fiercely, my throat too choked up to say a single word, as if my grief had rendered me speechless. Watching me like this, my mother-in-law's heart felt like it was being torn to pieces. She tried her best to comfort me. All I wish for now is that you can hold on. If you collapse too, I won't be able to go on living either. There were far too many guests, my feet ached terribly, so, at just the right moment, my body trembled violently, and I slumped weakly toward Enlian. Madam, quick, hold her up, fetch the doctor, hurry and get the doctor. Chaos erupted in the morning hall at once. My mother-in-law was so shocked she nearly fainted too, only to be hastily supported by the servants. I was carried back to my inner chambers. When I finally drifted awake, the funeral was over, and all the guests had long since departed. Mother-in-law was sitting by my bed, weeping silently. As soon as she saw my eyes flutter open, she grabbed my hand in a hurry, her voice trembling with lingering fear. Man, you scared me half to death. Enlian said you haven't eaten or drunk anything these past few days. You can't go on torturing yourself like this. I beg you, for the sake of the child, please live well, will you? From now on, you are my own daughter. As long as I draw breath, I will protect you. I leaned against her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. After this incident, my reputation for being deeply devoted and ready to die for her late husband spread throughout the capital. No one failed to praise my loyalty and virtue. After all, over the years, everyone had seen with their own eyes how Shen Jingyan and I treated each other with respect and love, the perfect married couple. Who would ever believe that I was the one who pushed Shen Jingyan off the cliff? Not even my mother-in-law doubted me for a second. Once I had recovered a little, to lift my spirits and give me something to occupy my time, she handed over to me all the tokens for managing the household and the keys to the storerooms. She herself moved into the Buddhist hall, spending her days with nothing but a dim oil lamp and ancient Buddha statues for company. Her only wish was for the Buddha to bless me with a safe delivery and ensure the continuation of the Shen family bloodline. In just half a year, the entire Marquis's mansion, inside and out, had quietly been taken over by my trusted confidants. The mansion was now as secure as an iron bucket, firmly under my control, power in my hands, a child in my womb. And the sympathy and admiration of the entire world. On the surface, I had won everything. Yet a faint unease lingered in the depths of my heart, like some unseen thing quietly taking root in the shadows, creeping ever closer. My belly grew heavier by the day. Even turning over in bed required the help of a maid. After feeling my pulse, the doctor urged me repeatedly, "Madam, you must rest as much as possible. Your due date is in just a month. Under no circumstances must you agitate the fetus." Mother-in-law had been acting distracted lately. Yesterday, she had even gone alone to Baohua Temple, the most efficacious temple on the outskirts of the capital, saying she wanted to pray for a peace talisman for me and the unborn child. Shortly after noon today, I was leaning on a daybed, dozing lightly, when an unusual commotion suddenly erupted outside the courtyard. There was the sound of chaotic footsteps, mixed with my mother-in-law's overjoyed voice, Man. The Buddha has answered my prayers, he really has." My brows twitched, a sense of foreboding washed over me. Supported by Enlian, I struggled to sit up and walked outside. As soon as I was helped to the veranda, I saw mother-in-law striding in, her face flushed with excitement. It had been a long time since she'd looked this happy, ever since Shen Jingyan's death. She didn't even bother with her usual decorum. Grabbing my arm in a hurry, her voice trembling with emotion, Look who's come back." I knew I'd been feeling flustered these past few days. It was heaven preparing a surprise for us. She stepped aside abruptly, clearing the way. At the courtyard gate, backlit by the harsh afternoon sun. A manservant supported a figure as it limped into the courtyard. His clothes were tattered and ragged, his whole body reeking of a thick stench of sweat and filth. His face gradually came into focus. At the sight of him, I felt every drop of blood in my body freeze solid. It was Shinjingyan. He had actually survived. His once handsome face was now completely ruined by a grotesque, twisted scar. It sliced from his left temple, cutting through his eyebrow bone and bridge of his nose, all the way down to his right jawline. His flesh was turned up at the edges, like a purple-black centipede crawling across his skin, and beneath his tattered robe, his left trouser leg was empty. He leaned entirely on the manservant for support, every movement looking excruciatingly painful. He raised his head, his gaze locking onto me, his voice hoarse and gravelly. "Madam, I'm home." My legs buckled beneath me. If not for Inlian's quick support, I would have collapsed to the ground. But all the color had already drained from my face, leaving it as pale as a sheet. His eyes slowly drifted downward, finally coming to rest on my heavily swollen belly. He curved his lips into a slow, cold smile, the scar twisting along with his mouth, making him look even more terrifying. "You've certainly been keeping busy while I was away, haven't you, madam?" Mother-in-law was completely lost in the ecstasy of having her son back from the dead, utterly oblivious to the eerie tension hanging in the air. She dabbed at her tears, overjoyed. Yes, Yanga, you've come back just in time. You'll get to see your child born with your own eyes. This is double happiness. It must be your father's spirit watching over us from heaven, bringing our family back together." She could barely contain her joy, adding hastily, "You two have been apart for so long, you must have 1,000 things to say to each other. I won't stand in your way any longer. I'm off to the ancestral hall to burn incense and tell our ancestors the good news." With that, she hurried out of the courtyard, taking all the servants with her. Inlian looked at me, her eyes filled with worry. But in the end, she was pulled away by mother-in-law too. They even thoughtfully closed the courtyard gate softly behind them. The courtyard fell into a deathly silence. Not even the wind dared to stir. I took an involuntary step backward. Shinjingyan watched my movement, letting out a low, menacing chuckle. He leaned against a pillar, his empty trouser leg swinging slightly. Then, hopping on one foot, he made his way toward me. "Madam." He bared his teeth in a grin, the centipede-like scar writhing along with his lips, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. Surprised, that cliff was so high, yet it didn't kill me. Not even the mountain beasts could finish me off completely. He reached out, his fingers clamping down on my chin, forcing me to look up at him. "These past few months, I've missed you so much. Terribly." He leaned closer, his murky, fetid breath fanning across my face. "I missed you so badly that every bone in my body ached. I couldn't sleep a wink at night, and whenever I closed my eyes, all I saw was your face. Madam." I bit down hard on my lower lip, forcing a hoarse, trembling voice past my throat. What do you want?" He caressed my cheek slowly, his tone growing even softer, more sinister. "Do you know what it feels like, to have a home you can't return to, a door you dare not knock on, to hide like a rat in the gutter? Watching you shine in all your glory." My heart sank like a stone. So he knew, he'd been watching from the shadows all along. Of course he had. How could I have ever truly felt at ease? As long as Shinjingyan's body was never found, I would live with a thorn in my side, never able to rest easy day or night. The whole world praised me for my unwavering devotion and undying love, for being unable to accept my husband's death, for sending men to search tirelessly for him again and again. What a touching, heartbreaking tale of love it was, but only I knew the truth. I had only ever wanted to silence him for good. His gaze drifted down again, settling on my rounded belly. Complex emotions churned in his eyes, scrutiny, calculation, and above all, a searing hatred. When he looked up again, his hand pressed down on my stomach. At that very moment, the baby inside kicked hard. He felt it clearly against his palm. He froze for a heartbeat, then he let out a cold, cruel laugh. "Look, madam." Even his overjoyed to see his father home, I slapped his hand away violently, stumbling backward, my hands flying to protect my belly. He didn't rush me. Instead, He dragged his empty trouser leg forward another half step, once again casting me under his shadow. "Don't be afraid, madam." He stared at my ashen face, his grin widening even more. "I'll take good care of you, and our son, from now on, we're going to be a happy family, together." Those 5 words struck my heart like a dagger, sending violent shivers racking my body. The night grew deep, and all was quiet. Beside me, Shen Jingyan's breathing was heavy and steady, as if he were fast asleep. I held my breath, my fingertips sliding under the pillow. A dagger was slowly pulled free. If he didn't die tonight, I would. My resolve hardened, and a fierce desire to kill surged within me. I summoned every last ounce of strength, driving the dagger straight toward his throat, just an inch away from piercing his skin. Shen Jingyan's eyes flew open. There was no trace of sleep in them, only thick, unadulterated mockery. In the same instant, he grabbed my wrist, his grip so tight it felt like he would crush my bones to dust. "Ua!" I cried out in pain, my fingers forced open. The dagger slipped from my grasp. He caught it easily, tossing it casually into the darkness of the corner. Before I could even react, slap, 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 a series of heavy slaps landed hard across my face. The force of them sent my head snapping to the side, my ears ringing violently. Half my face went numb, and I tasted the faint metallic tang of blood on my tongue. "Chew, man, man." His voice was low and hoarse, dark as a ghost's whisper. "Did you really think I'd give you a second chance to kill me? After you pushed me off that cliff?" His fingers dug into my jaw, making me wince in pain. "I suggest you behave yourself. Give birth to this child for me, otherwise." His sinister gaze drifted slowly downward, finally settling on my swollen abdomen. The threat in his eyes was unmistakable. From that night onward, I was completely imprisoned, using the excuse that our enemies are still at large, and I fear for the safety of the Marquis's heir. He easily convinced mother-in-law to replace most of the mansion's guards, sealing off my courtyard so tightly that not even a fly could slip through. Then, citing that you are about to give birth and should not be burdened with trivial matters, he took back the household tokens and storeroom keys from me, rightfully and without protest. All the painstaking effort I had put into taking over the mansion over the past few months was lost in the blink of an eye. The last few loyal servants by my side, including Inlian, were transferred away one by one on various pretexts. In their place came a few silent, unfamiliar maids. They waited on me hand and foot, watching my every move, monitoring every cup of tea I drank, every bite of pastry I ate. Mother-in-law only saw his thoughtfulness and devotion to the unborn child, and pitied him for his disabilities. She nodded along to every single one of his arrangements, never questioning a thing. I lived in constant fear, my nerves stretched taut, waiting for him to unleash his more vicious revenge, but strangely enough, beyond the tight security, he made no other move against me. What exactly did he want? It seemed this child was extremely important to him. In just a few days, I wasted away drastically, my cheekbones protruded, my eye sockets sunken, my face as pale as a ghost. Everyone who saw me was shocked by how haggard I looked. I touched my belly gently. "I'm sorry, my child, you'll have to endure a little while longer." Mother-in-law came to visit just as she caught me trembling uncontrollably by the window. She took my icy cold hands in hers, her eyes filled with heartfelt compassion. Man, how have you become so haggard? If you go on like this, how will you and the baby survive?" I clutched her sleeve tightly in return, my eyes reddening instantly. "Mother, every night, I can hear cousin's voice crying in my ear. She says she's so lonely, she says the bottom of the cliff is so dark." A violent shiver racked my body, my eyes darted around in terror. As if I could see something invisible lingering in the air, my voice grew even more desperate and broken. "Mother, I'm scared, I'm so terrified. Cousin says she wants me to go keep her company." Tears streamed down my face at the perfect moment, my sobs racking my body. "Mother, let me go to Baohua Temple to burn incense for cousin, to pray for her soul to rest in peace. Otherwise I'll never be able to sleep at night again. I'm afraid I won't live to see the baby born." Just then, Shen Jingyan strode into the room, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. Without a second thought, he cut me off in a cold, sharp voice. Nonsense. You're so far along in your pregnancy, how can you stand the jolting of a carriage ride? There's a perfectly good Buddhist hall right here in the mansion. Where else do you need to go to find peace of mind? My gaze fixed on the empty space behind him, my pupils dilated suddenly. I pointed trembling fingers at it, letting out a blood-curdling scream. See cousin, don't come near me. Why are you standing behind my husband again? Why do you keep staring at him? Shen Jingyan's face paled instantly. He couldn't help but twist around to glance behind him. I suddenly clamped a hand over my mouth, retching violently. Man. Mother-in-law was terrified. She rushed to support me, shouting sharply, "Fetch the doctor. Hurry and get the doctor." The mansion physician hurried over at once. After feeling my pulse carefully, he replied with a grave expression, "Old madam, the lady has been consumed by grief and anxiety, tormented by fear and shock. She has also been refusing to eat or drink, causing her internal organs to become blocked and stagnant. This has led to weakness and vomiting. If she cannot find peace of mind and rest properly, if she cannot bring herself to eat, I fear it will be extremely dangerous for both her and the unborn child." I leaned weakly against mother-in-law's chest, tears streaming down my face endlessly. I clutched at her lapels, begging her pitifully, "Mother, please, let me go and resolve this obsession of mine. Perhaps then I'll finally be able to eat something." Seeing me like this, mother-in-law hesitated no longer. "Go. You must go. Mother will arrange it at once. I'll accompany you to Baohua Temple personally tomorrow." Shen Jingyan's face darkened to a terrifying shade. His eyes raked over my face, searching for any hint of deceit. After a long, tense silence, he ground out a reply through gritted teeth. "How dare I trouble mother again? Your son will accompany her personally." He took a step closer, towering over me, his gaze cold as he stared down at me. The corners of his lips curled into a cold, humorless smile. "Rest assured, mother, I will never leave her side for a moment. I will take good care of Man. I'll make sure she prays in peace and returns to the mansion safe and sound." I was right. When Shen Jingyan had broken his leg, he had also suffered severe internal injuries. The child in my womb was his only remaining bloodline. That was why he had to suppress his hatred, biding his time until I gave birth safely before settling his score with me. Inside Baohua Temple, the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood incense curling upward in wispy tendrils. I knelt on a rush cushion, holding 3 sticks of incense in my hands, my face the picture of piety. Shen Jingyan stood just a few steps away from me, his voice laced with a sharp warning. "Behave yourself. We'll pray and then return to the mansion immediately. Don't you dare entertain any foolish ideas." I lowered my eyelashes, hiding all emotion from my eyes. I inserted the incense sticks reverently into the incense burner. Just then, a woman dressed in a plain white dress hurried past Shen Jingyan, her head bowed low, just a glimpse of her profile. Shen Jingyan's pupils constricted sharply. Forgetting himself, he stumbled forward on his crippled leg, chasing after her. A hoarse whisper escaped his lips unconsciously. Jishi. The woman seemed startled. She quickened her pace, darting through the backyard toward the secluded Release of Life lake. Shen Jingyan followed hot on her heels. At the edge of the lake, he finally caught up to her. He reached out and spun her around roughly by the shoulders, his voice trembling with shock and disbelief. "Jishi, is that really you?" The woman turned to face him, revealing a face that bore a striking 7-point resemblance to Wei Jishi's. Her eyes were wide with alarm. Shen Jingyan froze for a moment, then visibly relaxed, letting out a shaky breath of relief. But just as he was about to speak, a dark figure lunged at him from behind, shoving him hard. Splash! Shen Jingyan didn't even have time to let out a scream before his body was hurled violently into the lake. He was already crippled, his thick winter robes, soaked through with icy water, dragged him relentlessly down toward the bottom of the lake. He thrashed and struggled wildly in the water, sending up a spray of splashes. I stood on the shore, looking down at his pitiful, flailing form, a cold smile curving my lips. "Husband," my voice was calm. "Steady. I pushed you off a cliff once. I can do it again. The cliff failed to kill you. It seems this lake is destined to be your grave." He looked up at me, thrashing in the water, trying desperately to roar curses at me, but his mouth was flooded with water, choking off his words. Only gurgling sounds escaped his lips. Driven by sheer survival instinct, he somehow managed to flounder his way to the edge of the lake, his waterlogged hands grabbing frantically at a clump of grass on the bank. I walked over, crushing my foot down hard on his fingers. Arg! A muffled cry of agony bubbled up from under the water. In pain, he yanked his hand back. His body lost its balance once more, crashing back into the lake with a huge splash. I knelt down slowly, watching him struggle to stay afloat. My voice cool and unhurried. Husband, ever since you returned to the mansion, you've been eating nothing but vegetarian food, avoiding all meat and fish. How very strange. That cliff bottom is a desolate place, devoid of even birds or beasts. How exactly did you manage to survive all those days? My smile turned even colder, more cruel. I suppose you owe your survival to cousin, don't you? Was she tasty? His eyes widened to the size of saucers. For a moment, he forgot even to struggle. I couldn't help but clap my hands slowly, a laugh escaping my lips. You were willing to let me die to save her, but in the end, you chose to let her die to save yourself. Shen Jingyan, the only person you've ever loved, is yourself. Shen Jingyan's struggles grew weaker and weaker. His body began to sink straight down into the water, only faint, desperate gurgles escaping his throat. I stood up, brushing off the dust from my skirt. The moment you stepped foot back into the Marquis's mansion, you walked right into my trap. This prayer session was never for me.He. It was always for you, a funeral prayer to send your soul to the underworld. The lake water bubbled a few more times, then fell completely silent. The woman in the plain white dress stepped out from behind a nearby tree. All trace of fear had vanished from her face. She bowed deeply to me, her voice respectful. Benefactress, is there anything else I can do for you? I pulled a money pouch from my sleeve and pressed it into her hand. You've done perfectly well. This silver is more than enough for you to leave the capital, to go somewhere far away and live a peaceful life. Benefactress, Ruyan's eyes reddened. She tried hastily to push the money pouch back to me. You redeemed me from that brothel. That alone is a kindness greater than saving my life. I can never accept this money. I raised a hand to cut her off, my voice sharp. Take it. This isn't payment for your services. It's hush money to buy your silence. You've never seen me. I've never seen you. Do you understand? Ruyan's body stiffened. She finally realized the gravity of the situation. She stopped refusing, clutching the money pouch tightly to her chest. She took 2 steps back, then knelt down and kowtowed 3 times, her forehead touching the ground. May you be safe and well, benefactress. I will repay your great kindness in my next life. With that, she stood up quickly and fled without looking back. Ruyan had been my ace in the hole, planted months ago, in my relentless search for Shen Jingyan's whereabouts. I had even had my men investigate the most notorious brothels in the capital. After all, they were the best sources of gossip and information in the city. It was there that my men had found Ruyan, on the verge of hanging herself to escape the constant abuse she endured. Her gambling-addicted husband had racked up massive debts and sold her to the brothel to pay them off, and by a stroke of incredible luck, she bore a striking resemblance to me.He, 7 points out of 10. So I had my men redeem her from the brothel, hiding her away in a secret place. I had always known that she would be useful to me one day. Shen Jingyan was indeed clever. He had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But what he didn't know was that mother-in-law's trip to Baohua Temple alone had been arranged by me too. With my due date fast approaching, I would never allow such a dangerous loose end to remain at my side. I had to force Shen Jingyan to reveal himself. Did he really think that by openly reuniting with mother-in-law, I would be powerless to do anything to him? What a joke. Today had always been the perfect, tailor-made killing blow for him. Most of the new servants he had hired after his return had already been bribed by Inlian. As for the few remaining loyal ones, they would serve as the perfect eyewitnesses to what had happened today. Inlian appeared silently at my side, steadying my arm with a firm grip. She whispered softly, "Madam, everything is taken care of, no one saw a thing." She supported me as we hurried along a hidden side corridor back to the private meditation room prepared for female guests in the temple. The room was bright and clean, the faint scent of sandalwood lingering in the air. "Proceed with the plan," I ordered in a low voice. "Yes, madam." Inlian moved swiftly, helping me change into a plain, loose-fitting dress. Then she slipped away, retracing our steps back to the main hall. I was alone in the meditation room once more. Outside the door, the servants from the Marquis's mansion stood guard as usual. They all thought I had been inside the entire time, quietly copying Buddhist scriptures to pray for the safe birth of my child. About half an hour later, Mama Chang rapped gently on the door, her voice respectful. "Madam, it's getting late. The abbot of the temple has sent someone to ask, would you like to stay for a vegetarian meal before returning to the mansion?" Mama Chang was an old servant of the Shun family, and mother-in-law's most trusted confidant. She had worked as a midwife in her younger days, with decades of experience in helping women through childbirth. Mother-in-law had insisted on bringing her along on this trip, just in case I went into labor unexpectedly. The room remained completely silent. Mama Chang called out again, raising her voice slightly. Still, only dead silence greeted her. A sense of unease washed over Mama Chang. She didn't dare hesitate any longer. She pushed the door open cautiously, and saw me collapsed on the floor beside the daybed, my face as pale as a sheet, my forehead covered in cold sweat. I was clutching my stomach in agony. A large dark stain had spread across the skirt of my dress, soaking through to the fabric underneath. "Oh no, this is a disaster." Mama Chang let out a shrill cry of alarm. "Someone help, hurry, the lady's water has broken, she's going into labor, quick. Send for the midwife immediately, go inform the Marquis at once." Chaos erupted outside the door, the servants' panicked shouts, the sound of running footsteps, the clatter of falling bowls and plates all merged into a single, deafening cacophony of noise. It hurts so much. "Husband," I curled up into a tight ball on the floor, my body racked with pain. This time, I wasn't faking it, this was real. I had calculated the timing perfectly, taking a secret, powerful tonic to induce labor. At that moment, the first real contractions hit me, waves of searing pain that felt like my body was being torn apart from the inside out. A woman in the throes of labor would be the perfect suspect no one would suspect. Besides, that lake was secluded and empty, the perfect final resting place for a man who was never meant to be found. I bit down hard on my lip, letting the servants lift me onto the bed in their frantic haste. I waited for the arrival of the new life growing inside me, and I waited for the news of Shun Jingyan's death to reach my ears. The labor lasted for too long, agonizing days and nights. Finally, a baby's loud, healthy cry echoed through the room. I lay slumped on the soaking wet bedding, too exhausted to even lift a finger. Mama Chang carefully carried the tiny, wrinkled bundle over to me. "Look, madam, it's a young master. His eyes and brows take after you." I forced my weak, limp body to prop itself up, gazing greedily at the small life in her arms. The emptiness in my heart seemed to be filled at last. Just as my hand was about to touch his soft cheek, a sudden commotion erupted outside the door. A young maid burst in, her face ashen with terror, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "Madam, it's a disaster. The lake, the release of life lake, something's floated up. It's the Marquis. It's the Marquis's corpse." A deathly silence fell over the room. I froze in place, my pupils contracting sharply. In the next moment, my body went limp. Slumping backward onto the bed, I fainted, overcome by grief so profound it pierced my very soul. My acting was so convincing, I almost believed it myself. When I woke up again, I was back in the Marquis's mansion. Mama Chang was keeping vigil by my bed. When she saw my eyes flutter open, her face was a mixture of joy and sorrow. "Madam, you're finally awake. You must hold back your grief. The young master still needs you," she choked up as she told me what had happened. When mother-in-law heard the news of Shun Jingyan's death, she had spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot and collapsed, never to rise again. 2 groups of the most skilled imperial physicians had been summoned to treat her, but all they could do was shake their heads and sigh. They said her heart had been broken beyond repair, her life force completely drained. She didn't have much time left, only a few days at most. My heart was filled with a jumble of complex emotions. Toward mother-in-law, I had always felt a deep sense of guilt. To be honest, ever since I'd married into the Shen family, she had treated me with nothing but kindness. But Shen Jingyan had to die. It wasn't just for me, it was for my child too. Holding the sleeping baby in my arms, I dragged my weak, postnatal body to mother-in-law's bedside. The once elegant and dignified old lady now lay huddled under the brocade quilt, her features gaunt and withered, her breathing faint and shallow. Only when her eyes fell on the baby in my arms did a tiny glimmer of light appear in her cloudy gaze. She struggled to lift her hand, brushing it gently against the infant's cheek. A faint, weak smile touching her lips. Good, such a good boy. Have you given him a name yet? I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. Mother, you choose it. A name given by you will bring him the greatest fortune. Mother-in-law's gaze drifted past me, staring into the empty air, as if she were looking at something far, far away. She fell silent for a moment, lost in thought. Let's call him Shen Yuan. May he protect the Shen family, and bring peace for a lifetime. May he grow up to tell right from wrong, to be kind and upright, to protect his mother well. May he never, never follow in his father's footsteps, to stumble down the wrong path and be trapped in eternal ruin, to ultimately betray all those who love and trust him. My head shot up, my eyes widening in disbelief as I stared at her. She knew, she had known everything all along. Her hand slowly slid down, gently wrapping around mine. There was no hatred in her eyes, only endless, bone-deep weariness. Man. Her voice was so weak, it was barely audible. I don't know exactly what Yang did to drive you to such extremes, but for you to be willing to go this far, he must have committed unspeakable sins. I cannot forgive what you have done, yet I cannot blame you either. Her gaze fell on Shen Yuan again. Let today be the end of it. All the grudges, all the enmity, let them be buried with me, to rest in peace forever. She squeezed my fingers tightly, her eyes filled with pleading. From now on, the Shen family and Yuan, they are all in your hands. Raise him well, make him a man of integrity and honor. Will you? I nodded vigorously, my throat too choked up with tears to speak. Mother, I will, I promise you, I will. Hearing my words, mother-in-law seemed to finally let go of the heavy burden weighing on her heart. A faint, relieved smile tugged at the corners of her lips. She slowly closed her eyes. Mother-in-law had guessed the truth, but in the end, she had chosen to remain silent. She had chosen to protect me, to protect her only grandson, to protect the last shred of dignity and future left to the Marquis's mansion. She personally told the government officials and the outside world that Shen Jingyan's death had been an accident, closing the case once and for all. Holding Shen Yuan tightly in my arms, I slowly knelt down beside her bed. Tears poured forth like a flood, streaming down my face uncontrollably. As if sensing the overwhelming grief in the air, Shen Yuan suddenly let out a loud, wailing cry. All the past, all the pain, they were now nothing but memories, fading into the distance. From this day onward, the deep, secluded courtyards of the Marquis's mansion would be ruled by me, and one day, they would be inherited by my son.